Monopoly is one of the most popular board games of all time, selling well over 275 million copies since its debut in 1935. Look in your family's board game collection. They probably have at least like 15 copies in there or something. I don't think you need me to tell you how to play Monopoly, but if you do, then I don't know, look it up, I'm not telling you. Now, I'm willing to guess that some of you don't play Monopoly very often, or if you do, it's usually during some family events or a hangout with your friends. But for those of you that play the game by yourself, I am so sorry. And if you haven't played the game in a while, then you're probably asking yourself right now, is Monopoly even a fun game? At least in my personal opinion, Monopoly is just kinda okay. Monopoly is a game about deceit and betrayal, but not in a fun or particularly well executed way. More of like a your friend gave you a glass of Sprite when you ask for water kind of way. I feel like every time someone asks me or a group of people if we want to play Monopoly, I'm quick to deflect with a better board game option, that or I just concede because I'm too bored to bother. That's not to say that I haven't had fun with the game, I just feel like when compared to other games I could be playing, there are just better options. But even if you decide to play Monopoly, you better hope that the bond between players is strong enough so that the table doesn't explode due to pent-up rage building up around the table. Now, that being said, I'm not here to judge you if you enjoy the game. I'm merely giving my opinion on the matter. In fact, I wasn't even planning on talking about Monopoly at all until I saw this. What the hell is this supposed to be? Have we really run out of property ideas that we've resorted to internet memes? This version of the game changed something in me. It ignited a spark deep inside me that caused me to jump down into a rabbit hole that had long been left unopened, which basically just meant that I decided to look up a bunch of variations of Monopoly. So today, let's take a look at some of the versions of Monopoly that I wanted to share. The first version that I want to talk about is the 1941 Prisoner of War edition. I'm being serious. So, during the height of the Second World War, the British Secret Service had John Waddington Limited, the manufacturers of the game, create a special edition of Monopoly for British POWs that would be delivered via charity organizations such as the Red Cross. These versions contain things like compasses, money, and other assorted goods hidden within the game board to aid in the escape of Allied troops. So, whenever you look down at another get-out-of-jail-free card, just remember that back then, a card like that might have actually been used to help a prisoner literally get out of jail. This is just a modified version of a regular wartime edition of Monopoly. If you want a more historical look at this edition, I highly recommend Austin McConnell's video about it. I'll link it in the description if you want to watch it. But we need to move on. There's a lot of these things, so to get the ball rolling, let's take a look at Breaking Bad Monopoly. If you've ever wanted to play a board game where Emmy Award-winning actors Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul stare directly at you while you play, then this is the game for you. Jesse, there's a fucking family of 4 at the bottom of this batch. The description for this version begins with the line, "Let's cook." It also says you can relive your favorite moments from the show. Uh-oh, Walt, looks like you landed on my hotel property. Breaking Bad is far from the only TV series to get its own version of Monopoly, so let's take a look at the Stranger Things Collector's Edition Monopoly, not to be confused with the Stranger Things Edition of Monopoly. They are two completely separate versions. The Collector's Edition is seasons 1 to 3, and the other one is just the first 2 seasons. Do you get it now? Do you see how these are two completely different games? Well, I mean, they're both still Monopoly, but you know what I mean. Now, where are my early 2000s kids at? I know you're out there. Let's take a look at the Phineas and Ferb Monopoly. Hell yeah, now this is what I'm talking about. This is the game that I wanted to... Alright, next version. For all my gamers out there, here's a few versions that you might like. We got an Animal Crossing version, Fallout version, GTA version, FNAF version. I'm surprised that there aren't any lore videos about this yet. Hey, wait a minute, let me check. Holy shit. You better believe that there's a Disney Monopoly, but if you prefer Pixar, well, there's a Pixar Monopoly too. And if you have a very specific love for the Pixar film Cars 2, well, there's a Monopoly of that one too. I don't think that I'm excluding you, Illumination fans, because we got the Despicable Me Monopoly to cover you. Oh man, but I really like the Mario movie, and there's no Monopoly of that. Well, do I have a surprise for you. Introducing the new Mario movie Monopoly. There's also, like, a regular Mario Monopoly, too. If you want to play Monopoly and look great while doing it, there's the Sephora Monopoly. Wait a minute. Discontinued. Sorry, I lost my temper there. I need to calm down with some Dog Lovers edition of Monopoly. Wait, no, this isn't the right one. Yeah, there we go. Chances are you've seen this before, but I'm willing to bet you haven't seen the lesser-known version, Dogopoly. Hell yeah, no, this is the version everyone should own. Both of these versions were published by the board game company Late for the Sky. If you've seen any of these off-brand Opoly games, then there's a high chance that these guys are responsible. Contrary to what you might be thinking, Dogopoly isn't a game for you hardcore gangsters out there, and I know you're out there. No, this is a version themed around the University of Georgia and their mascot, the Georgia Bulldogs. There's a surprising amount of these university-themed versions, and by that I mean they didn't stop with Dogopoly. But what if you're a dog lover, but you only have a very specific love for beagles? Well, Late for the Sky has got you covered there with Beagleopoly. For some reason, this company specializes in creating very specific versions of Monopoly that Hasbro was just too scared to commit to. Case in point, Schnucksopoly. This is a version that I think everyone should play at least once in their lives. Based on the Schnucks chain of supermarkets located in and around St. Louis, Missouri, USA. Like, why does this exist? Like, at least Target Monopoly I can understand. The thing is everywhere, but who outside of Missouri has ever been inside a Schnucks? Well, if they got their own exclusive board game, I have to go. Speaking of Missouri, where are my Patriots at? Yeah, I know you're out there. Don't worry, fellas, I got you with the America Special Edition Monopoly. But Late for the Sky has also got you covered with Americaopoly. And for a very specific minority of you, there's Bostonopoly. And for an even more specific minority, there's the Boston Celtics Edition, which is officially published by USAopoly. And oh god, the rabbit hole has gone too deep! We need to go back! We need to get back to the simple versions. I just want to see Phineas and Ferb Monopoly again. Take us back! Take us back! Oh god! I feel like we went a bit too far back, but while we're here, we might as well talk about Earthopoly, which provides an environmental conservational twist to the classic game. Earthopoly is a game celebrating Earth one turn at a time. Players become the caretakers of wondrous locations around the planet, then increase their property value by collecting carbon credits and trading them in for clean air. For the most holy of those among us in the audience today, I'd like to share with you Bibleopoly. But if you're looking for a specific religion to represent, look no further than Episcopoly. What the hell? This educational game is filled with respectful humor about the realities of building and maintaining an Episcopal church while bringing awareness and recognition to churches and church organizations nationally. For all my dads out there, I got you covered with Brewopoly, but don't worry, moms. There's Winopoly too. For all the older brothers out there that want to scare your little siblings away from the game table, there's the Walking Dead Survival Edition. If you're a millennial, you'll probably love the South Park Collector's Edition, but you'll probably hate Monopoly for Millennials. Best Buy Corp Edition, just in case you're really into Best Buy. Ice Creamopoly and Ice Creamopoly. Why are there two different versions? Well, Ice Creamopoly is just your standard reskin of Monopoly, while Ice Creamopoly is a simplified version for kids. But why? Is the other version of Ice Creamopoly supposed to be for adults? Hey Brian, what game are we playing tonight? Oh, you guys are gonna love this one. I got Ice Creamopoly. Yeah, Brian! Hey, wait a minute. That's the junior version. What the fuck, Brian? You were supposed to be the chosen one. Duckopoly is a lot less fun than it sounds. It's yet another one of those university-themed monopolies, this time themed around the University of Oregon. Why can't we just get a real version of Duckopoly? Make a board game where the properties are just different species of ducks, okay? Mallard, canvasback, marble. This is why we can't have nice things. We have meme SpongeBob Monopoly, and we can't even get a real Duckopoly! Sorry about that. Lost my temper again. Now, let's get back on track with Letterkenny-opoly, based on the hit Canadian TV show. Now, you might be thinking that this is just another Late for the Sky game, but no. This is an entirely different company called High Roller Games. They specialize in creating board games for famous Canadian TV shows like Letterkenny, Trailer Park Boys, and Bob Marley, I guess. Wagga Wagga Edition? What the hell is Wagga Wagga? Oh, it's a city in Australia. How is this an official game? Irishopoly is not themed around Ireland, but instead the University of Notre Dame. I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. Star Wars Monopoly is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Golf Monopoly. Tautopoly, or Totopoly. I'm not entirely sure how you'd pronounce it, but I'm just going to call it Totopoly to be unique. Totopoly is a board game based on the events leading up to and during a horse race. Despite the name and some similar aspects in gameplay, it is a standalone game distinct from Wait, we can't talk about this. It's a different game. Disqualified. Actually, while we're here, we might as well talk about some versions of Monopoly that feature different gameplay mechanics. Here we have Monopoly Millionaire, where the first person to get $1 million wins. You know, when I said there were different gameplay mechanics, I never said they were going to be particularly deep. Monopoly Empire, you got to build a tower instead of purchasing property. Make your own Opoly, they just ran out of ideas, so you got to make it yourself. Giant Monopoly, which is just Monopoly but bigger. It's not really different gameplay-wise, I just didn't know where else to mention this. Crazy Cash Monopoly. What the fuck is this thing? It's like you're playing Monopoly, but there's a sentient stamp printer in the corner. Monopoly Socialism Edition for those people that hate capitalism. If you don't want to buy this version, though, then you can just take a regular board and have no one buy property, and that way everyone just passes go to collect their check and everyone wins. Longest Game Ever Edition. This version prides itself in the fact that the game will literally never end. The board has more than double the original amount of spaces, there's only one die, and the game can only end when one player has every single property on the board. Shout out to the guys who started this game 6 months ago and are still playing. Although it's not quite as long as Insane Monopoly. There's one game that some of you guys might have been expecting me to talk about, but I wanted to save it for the end. Introducing Ms. Monopoly, the first game where women make more than men. We've somehow found a way towards double sexism, which I didn't even know was possible. A few changes to this game are the fact that the properties have been replaced with inventions that women have made, and when you pass go, men can only collect $200, but women get to collect $240. This comment I saw on the fandom page summarizes this rule perfectly. I really hate how this game implies that Monopoly is a male-dominated game, which is just incorrect. It's a family game where every player has an equal chance of winning right from the start of play. There's no unfair advantage to players based on their sex, it's just a family-centered board game. This game has been rightfully criticized since its release, but one thing I find particularly interesting is that Monopoly isn't even on the board for female inventions. Lizzie Maggie can be considered the true inventor of Monopoly, but that fact wouldn't be realized until years after her death. Her original concept, the Landlord's Game, was specifically designed to critique the idealism of capitalism and the entire concept of monopolies. I find the irony behind the success of Monopoly and the sheer number of versions of the game fascinating because it directly contrasts with the ideas that the original game was trying to present. The idea that landlords are dicks. While USAopoly might use Monopoly Socialism Edition to promote the idea that capitalism is for winners, the fact of the matter is that Monopoly on its own is already a direct critique of capitalism, and the fact that USAopoly doesn't see that is very telling of their business practices. Now, I was planning to end the video right here, but before I do, I just want to share what I consider to be the single greatest version of Monopoly. It can only be accessed in Tabletop Simulator, but it is worth it just for this game alone. Ladies and gentlemen, I've waited long enough, but I am finally ready to present to you Turkish Monopoly. Every single property has been replaced with go to jail. You only collect $20 when you pass go, and every single card that you draw either takes money from you or you go to jail. You wanted a game that critiques capitalism? Well, I give you a game that killed capitalism. In summary, Catan better. See ya.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?